Welcome back to the Explainer. Today, we are getting our hands dirty and digging into the code to break down two really fundamental ways to write for the web. You've got your native vanilla JavaScript on one side and the legendary library that honestly changed the whole game, Jquery, on the other.
Okay, so here's what we've got on tap. We're going to kick things off with the core difference, their basic philosophy and how they look. Then we'll dive into the nitty-gritty of handling user events and creating cool visual effects. And to finish it all off, we'll have a final showdown to really weigh the pros and cons.
All right, let's get right to the heart of it. First things first, let's look at what actually separates these two approaches from the get-go, using a really simple, practical example. So imagine you want to make something happen on a web page. Let's say you've got some text you want to appear or disappear when a button is clicked. Super standard stuff, right? Well, which of these two languages makes more sense to you? Let's check out the actual code. And while this slide right here, this is everything. It perfectly captures the whole debate. On the left, you've got pure JavaScript, and you can see it spells everything out. Step 1, get the button. Step 2, get the text. Step 3, add a listener for a click, and then you have to write the logic yourself. If the text is hidden, show it. Otherwise, hide it. It's super explicit. You're in complete control. Now look at the right. That's the jQuery way. Their whole motto is write less, do more. We grab the button with that concise $ thing, attach a click function, and just tell the text to slide toggle. Boom. All that logic from the left is handled by that one simple command. So now that we've seen the basic philosophy, let's see how this difference plays out when you're dealing with the bread and butter of making a website feel alive, common user events. First up, the most fundamental user action there is, the humble, the classic, the button click. This comparison is a perfect example of what made jQuery so popular. In JavaScript, it's a two-step dance. You use document.getElementById to find the button, and then you use addEventListener to tell it what to do. jQuery just squishes that all together. The hashtag BTN finds the element, and you can immediately chain the .click method right onto it. Back when every browser had its own weird quirks, this simple, unified approach was an absolute lifesaver.
All right, so clicks are one thing, but what about another super common interaction? Making something change when a user's mouse just glides over it.
So here's the thing about a hover. It's not really one event, it's two. There's the moment the mouse enters the element and the moment it leaves. And as you can see, vanilla JavaScript makes you set up two separate listeners, one for mouse enter and another for mouse leave. jQuery, knowing that you'll do this all the time, bundles them together into one convenient .hover function. The first part is for what happens when the mouse enters, and the second is for when it leaves. So much cleaner. And this whole pattern of making things shorter and more convenient holds true for a whole range of other events, like listening for keyboard inputs or handling when someone submits a form. Now, what's interesting here is that they look surprisingly similar, don't they? But you can still see that little jQuery touch. It's $document versus just document, and .keydown versus the much longer addEventListener keydown, comma, ... I know it might seem like a small difference, but trust me, when you're writing a huge project, these little shortcuts really add up. Okay, now we are getting to the fun stuff, visual effects. This is where jQuery really made its name and became an absolute rock star in the early days of the web. So let's see how its famous built-in effects stack up against modern JavaScript animations. We'll start with the simplest effect in the book, making something on the page just hide, and then bringing it right back. So the key takeaway here is that JavaScript is very literal. To hide something, you directly manipulate its CSS display property and set it to none. To show it, you set it back to block. jQuery just abstracts all that away into simple, human-readable commands. Want to hide it? Call.hide. Show it? Call.show. Even better, if you just want to flip its current state, you can use .toggle. It's just so intuitive. But, just having elements pop in and out of existence can be a little jarring. What if we want that to be a little smoother? Let's talk about fading. This slide shows a really key difference in philosophy. In vanilla.js, a smooth fade isn't just a JavaScript task, it's a partnership with CSS. You have to go into your style sheet and set up a transition property first. Then, your JavaScript just flips the opacity, and the CSS handles the smooth animation. jQuery, on the other hand, has these effects built right in. You can just call .fadeout or .fadein, and it handles all the underlying magic for you. No extra CSS required.
And finally, let's look at another one of jQuery's most famous and beloved effects, the slide. And this example right here really captures jQuery's whole value proposition for animations. Creating a true, smooth slide effect in pure JavaScript and CSS is, well, it's actually pretty complicated. You have to animate the element's height, and it can get tricky. But with jQuery, it is as simple as calling a single function, .slide up, .slide down, and of course, the incredibly useful .slide toggle. It just works.
Okay, so we've looked at the code side by side, we've seen the events and the effects. Let's pull back for a minute and summarize the key differences to help you figure out which tool is right for which job. This table really breaks it all down. With JavaScript, the syntax is more verbose. You're definitely typing more, but it gives you this really granular control over every single detail. And most importantly, it's native. It runs in every browser, no extra files needed. jQuery, on the other hand, gives you that much shorter, concise syntax and a ton of built-in animation effects. But it comes at a cost. You need to include that jQuery library file in your project, which is an external dependency. And that leaves us with the big question from modern developers. You see, native JavaScript has gotten so much more powerful over the years. Many of the things that made jQuery essential are now much easier to do in plain JS. So, does jQuery's undeniable convenience still justify adding that extra file to your project today? Well, the answer, as always, really depends on what you're building.